Welcome back, quilting friends. Well, it's come to my attention that some of you are watching my videos not for the quilting content, not for tutorials, not for new fabrics, but rather to catch a glimpse of who apparently is the new Coriander Quilts mascot, Tiggs. And he's actually here right now on my cutting table. So I thought before I start this video, he can say hi, pop in, and then he actually wants to head outside. It's a beautiful day. He was in for a little bit, popped up here as soon as we turned on the lights, and I thought, now is my chance to get him in this video because I know some of you have been asking to see him again. So Tiggsy says hi, and now we are going to move on with the quilty content. As you can see behind me, today we are talking Scrappy Irish Chain blocks. I promised an update every now and then, and I have a big update of one more completed block to share with all of you. You can see everything I've completed so far behind me. I am working on these A blocks first. So I completed another one of those, bringing my total to 4, and then I have just one of the B blocks. I decided that I was gonna work on just the A's to start with because they take the longest. So once I get those out of the way, then I really feel like I'm going to be making some progress. Those B blocks are gonna go a lot faster. I was thinking about my progress or lack of progress, whichever way you want to look at it, on these blocks. And I realized if I keep going at the same speed that I am currently working at, it is going to take me about 2 years to finish all of my Scrappy Irish Chain blocks. And so for those of you that are in the same boat, maybe you're going a little bit slower than you want to go, or maybe you haven't found time to work on these blocks, you are in good company because I am right there with you. I taught classes for probably about 10 years or so prior to 2020, and every time I taught a class, it seemed like no matter what the class was about, where the class was at, someone would always apologize for being a slower sewist. And if you have ever felt the need to apologize for sewing slow, I have seen some comments popping up here and there in the Facebook group or here on YouTube. Oh my goodness, I'm just not as fast as some other people, or I just haven't made time to get my blocks done. Don't even worry about it. We all sew at different speeds. We sew at different speeds for different reasons. Some of us are retired and have more time on our hands. Some of us might be retired and have less time on our hands because we're busy doing all sorts of other things. Even where we live, if you're northern hemisphere people, we are in the midst of winter and not as many nice days, so we might be snowed inside and might have a little bit more time to sew. Whereas warmer climate quilters right now may be spending their time outside and aren't having as much time inside to sew. Even something as silly as maybe you sew with friends and you spend more time chatting than sewing. That can slow down your sewing speed. There's any number of reasons we might slow sewer than someone else, and there's no rush. As long as you're having fun and enjoying what you're doing it right. So well done. I just wanted to take a little bit of time to say that because I know that in my years of teaching, that's something that comes up every time I teach, I think. So you're in good company. We all slow at different speeds. As you can see, my speed on this one is slow. Now, the other thing I wanted to share with you guys is a new Scrappy block pattern. Last month, we did the Scrappy Heart, and it worked perfectly for February and Valentine's Day. Although I have just this week seen someone making this block, and they did, I don't remember what their center heart was. I want to say it was pink maybe. And then their frame out around it was navy, and that was really pretty. So this block is going to be pretty in so many different colors. It does not need to be just a red and pink block. It could definitely be let's scrap bust all of our colors block. But that was fun to see that version. This month, I thought what better quilt block than a Scrappy Clover block. This perfectly uses up your green fabrics, and it's another great one to scrap bust. Now, for the Scrappy Heart block, last month I gave a verbal tutorial during the YouTube video. I'll link to that video down below in case you missed it. For this month, I decided to do a written PDF pattern just for the block. So you can snag the PDF pattern on my blog today, and I will link to that below. I do want to take just a little bit of time to go down over kind of the piecing instructions, not a full-on tutorial, but rather just walking you through the pattern a little bit. Here is what the block looks like. For my block, I used a scrappy mix of various green prints. These are not all my fabrics, but rather just fabrics that I pulled from my scrap bin. And then I used some different low volume prints for the backgrounds, and also quite a few white on white fabrics I mixed in there. Now, I think for a clover block that I would actually prefer this one using the darker greens. You can see in my pattern here that it really looks sharp done in darker greens. So if you had darker greens in your stash, that's probably the direction I would go if I were making a whole quilt of this block. And I specifically wanted it to be a 4-leaf clover sort of look. This shade of green is what I have by far the most greens in this color. So that's why I went with these lighter greens, which I think is pretty too. It makes for a nice springy block. Now, as we look over this pattern, this is a 12.5-inch unfinished, 12-inch finished block. That's what the instructions are written for. You are going to start with half square triangles, and you're going to see that we use those around the perimeter of the block. So just like in last month's heart block, we're going to use a lot of half square triangles. To make half square triangles in the size we need for this block, you're going to use 3-inch squares. You're going to need print squares, 10 of them, and you're also going to need 10 of the background squares. And then the other thing that we're going to need would be for our center 4-leaf clover portion. We need 16 2.5-inch green squares. And then these corners, these that you see here, these are stitch and flip corners, and those are all cut at 1.5 inches square. As you work your way down through the pattern, you're going to see that you make the half square triangles first. Get those out of the way. You will be trimming those to 2.5 inches, just like the pattern says to do. The next step that we will do is to piece the units that we'll be using here for the center portion of our block. The center is basically 4 4-patch units. You can see them here. And then after you construct the 4 patches, you go ahead and do your stitch and flip corners on 3 corners in each of those 4 patches. And you can see that illustrated down here at the bottom of your pattern. After that, it is just a matter of sewing everything together. You're going to notice as you work your way down through the pattern, and also right in the introduction of the piecing instructions, that we are pressing all seams open. So keep that in mind as you work your way through the pattern, but you'll see the pressing instructions denoted by those arrows. After we have the center portion of the block sewn together, then you are simply making the pieces that you need to frame out the center. So step number 5, these are your 2 side half square triangle sets here, and then you're going to make 2 longer ones that you will then sew to the top and bottom of your block, and that completes your block. So it is a pretty straightforward block to piece. Going to show you the back of my block here so you can see how it looks all pressed open. If you watched the Moda Mystery unboxing video that I shared a couple weeks ago, you will remember that I had a woolly pressing bar that I was using in that video to press seams open. I made good use of that pressing bar again for this block to press all of these seams open. And it's really a notion that I am reaching for often. If you missed that video, I'll link to it in the description box below. The giveaway is no longer going, but I did demo that pressing bar so you can see how easy it is for pressing your seams open. One thing I do want to mention, for these stitch and flip corners, those are also pressed open as well. And I find it easiest when I am constructing those, and it's the way I've written the pattern, is to when you sew those corners on, press away from the center, trim out your bottom 2 layers and then go back in and press that open. That's how that's going to work best when you're doing stitch and flip corners that then need to be pressed open. Press to one side first and then press it open. So you'll see that in my instructions as well, but I did want to mention that. That concludes this video on the Scrappy Clover block and the Scrappy Irish Chain block update. I'll continue doing these hopefully monthly video updates and sharing my progress on the Scrappy Irish Chain, as well as some fun little block. I have a couple ideas for some other fun scrap busting blocks that I would love to do tutorials for you guys in the upcoming months. So I'm excited to kind of continue this series where I share my progress and then have a little bit something fun that you could do with your scraps if you're done with your Scrappy Irish Chain, or maybe you're just looking for some great scrap busting block ideas. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I will catch you again next time.